The orbital station hummed with the usual cacophony of 1,000 worlds meeting in one place. Marcus Webb leaned against the observation deck railing, nursing a drink that tasted like antifreeze mixed with regret. 3 months on this floating diplomatic circus had taught him that humanity's entry into the galactic community meant endless paperwork, translator malfunctions, and the occasional biological incompatibility that resulted in someone's lunch becoming sentient. He was about to call it a night when she walked in. She moved with a grace that defied the station's artificial gravity, her form simultaneously alien and captivating. Her skin shimmered with an opalescent quality that shifted between deep blue and violet under the lights. What caught his attention immediately were her legs, impossibly long and elegant, ending in feet that seemed to barely touch the ground. They were remarkable, covered in what looked like fine scales that caught the light like 1,000 tiny mirrors. Marcus had always prided himself on his diplomatic tact, but 3 months of recycled air and diplomatic doublespeak had eroded his filter considerably. "Those are some impressive legs," he said, immediately regretting it. She turned, and he found himself looking into eyes that held depths of amber and gold, with pupils that contracted into vertical slits before relaxing. Her lips, fuller than a human's and tinged with a darker purple hue, curved into what he hoped was amusement, rather than the prelude to his violent demise. "You find my locomotion appendages aesthetically pleasing?" Her voice carried a melodic quality, the translator implant rendering it in smooth, accented English. "I'm sorry, that came out wrong. I meant no disrespect, none taken." She moved closer, and Marcus caught a scent like ozone and honey. "Your species has a reputation for bluntness. I find it refreshing after 6 cycles of diplomatic protocol meetings. I am Lyra of the Venathi Collective. Marcus Webb, human, obviously. Earth diplomatic corps, unfortunately." She laughed, a sound like wind chimes in a summer breeze. "The Venathi value directness in personal matters, even if our political discourse requires layers of nuance." "You complimented my legs." "They are lovely," he said, committing to the awkwardness. Lyra's expression shifted to something playful. "Interesting. Among my people, the legs are considered our least impressive feature. Purely functional, you understand. Now, I have something even better. Want to see?" Every training manual, every briefing document, every cautionary tale from the veterans screamed at him that this was how interstellar incidents began. But curiosity had always been his weakness, and her smile suggested she knew it. "Should I be concerned for my safety?" "Only if you have a weak constitution." She gestured to a quieter corner of the observation deck, away from the main crowd. Marcus followed, his mind racing through possibilities. The Venathi were relatively new to his experience. They had joined the galactic community only 50 years before humanity, and their home world was 3 sectors away. What he knew could fit on a data card. Carbon-based, oxygen breathers, technologically advanced, and possessed of a peculiar sense of humor that had caused 2 trade negotiations to collapse into confused laughter. Lyra stopped near a viewport, showing the swirling colors of the Helix Nebula beyond. She turned to face him fully, and he realized she stood nearly 7 feet tall, her frame slender but suggesting hidden strength. "The Venathi evolved on a world with variable gravity," she began, her tone shifting to something more educational. "Our planet's 3 moons create tidal forces that change our effective weight by 30% throughout each day. Our legs adapted for locomotion, yes, but they are simple tools." She raised one hand, and Marcus watched as the skin along her forearm began to shift. The opalescent scales rippled, then separated slightly, revealing a network of bioluminescent channels beneath. They pulsed with soft light, creating patterns that flowed from her shoulder to her fingertips. "This is our pride," she said softly. "Our vascular luminous network. It serves multiple purposes: communication, emotional expression, thermal regulation, and social bonding. The patterns changed, flowing faster, creating what looked like equations and star maps in light against her skin. We can convey complex mathematical concepts, share memories through pattern recognition, even create art that others can read and understand instantly. Marcus stared, transfixed. That's incredible. We have nothing like that. Your species has its own remarkable features. Your vocal range, for instance, allows for music of extraordinary complexity. And your hands. She reached out, carefully taking his hand in hers. Her touch was cool, smooth. 12 distinct grip patterns, capable of both power and precision. The Venathi have only 7. The lights beneath her skin pulsed again, slower now, forming patterns that somehow conveyed warmth and curiosity. This is how we truly communicate with each other. The spoken language is for outsiders and formal occasions. Among ourselves, we speak in light. What are you saying now? Marcus asked, watching the patterns flow. I am expressing curiosity about your species, appreciation for your directness, and a question about whether humans experience the same difficulty with diplomatic functions that I do. He laughed. If your question is whether I find them tedious and exhausting, the answer is absolutely yes. Her patterns brightened, quickened. Humor, good. The Venathi value humor highly. It is difficult to achieve across species barriers. Can you control what the patterns show? Yes and no. Basic emotional states are involuntary, like your facial expressions. But complex communication requires focus and intention. Watch. The lights shifted, forming what looked like a spiral galaxy, rotating slowly, then breaking apart into individual stars that scattered across her arm before reforming into the shape of Earth. Surprisingly accurate, given she had probably only seen it in databases. You programmed that? Marcus asked. Created it in real time. We think in images and patterns as much as words. Your planet is beautiful, by the way. All that blue. Our world is mostly violet and red from our star spectrum. Water reflects differently there. They talked for hours. Lyra explained how young Venathi learned to control their luminous patterns, the way human children learn to speak. How social gatherings involved elaborate light displays that could be seen from orbit. How artists created living murals on their bodies that told stories lasting hours. In return, Marcus told her about human art, music, the strange mammalian need for physical contact and verbal affirmation. Your species touches frequently, she observed. The Venathi do as well, but we share patterns while touching. It creates a feedback loop of emotion and thought. Very intimate. Is that why you're keeping distance now? Yes, we are strangers, and such sharing would be inappropriate. Though I confess curiosity about what it would be like with a species that cannot reciprocate the pattern language. Marcus felt a strange pang of disappointment. Different, I imagine. Not necessarily worse. Her patterns pulsed with something that looked like thoughtfulness. Your species communicates so much through voice, through tone and inflection. You create meaning in sound the way we create it in light. Perhaps they are not so different. A chime sounded, indicating the approaching shift change. The observation deck would soon flood with the next rotation of personnel. I should go, Lyra said. My delegation meets early to prepare for tomorrow's session on mining rights in the Kepler sector. The joy never ends. Indeed. She paused, her patterns forming something complex. Thank you, Marcus Webb. Your compliment about my legs led to a far more interesting conversation than I anticipated. Thank you for showing me. Honestly, it's the most fascinating thing I've seen since arriving here. Perhaps we might speak again? I would like to learn more about human music. You mentioned something called jazz that sounded intriguing. I'd like that. She moved toward the exit, her impossible legs carrying her with that same fluid grace. At the doorway, she turned back. Marcus? Among the Venafi, when we show someone our inner light for the first time, it means we trust them. I wanted you to know that. Then she was gone, leaving Marcus alone with the stars and the lingering scent of ozone and honey. He looked down at his own arm, solid and lightless, and found himself wondering what it would be like to speak without words, to share thoughts in flowing luminescence. Humanity had come to the stars expecting to find aliens. What they had found instead were people, different in form but similar in the ways that mattered. They laughed, they created, they struggled with bureaucracy and small talk. And sometimes they surprised you with beauty hidden beneath the obvious. Marcus smiled and headed back to his quarters. Tomorrow would bring another day of meetings and protocols, but tonight he had learned something new. Sometimes the best things are not the ones you notice first. Sometimes they are waiting just beneath the surface, ready to shine when given the chance. And sometimes a clumsy compliment is exactly the right way to start.